Welcome back to our South Carolina town hall with Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley. All right, we are on now to talk about the campaign and some of your opponents as well, which I'm sure you're relishing. Next up, we've got Becky. She's from here in Columbia, South Carolina. She says that she's voting for Governor Haley. She is a former teacher and a current sales associate. Becky, go ahead.
Thank you. Governor Haley, we're so proud to have you back in our state for a while.
Thank you.
I've always thought that running for an office is a right and not a privilege. What would you say to the naysayers who have made such negative comments regarding your continuing this presidential race?
It's interesting because, I look at where we started. There were 14 candidates in the race. We've defeated a dozen of the fellas. I just have one more fella to catch up to. And through it all, there have been naysayers, and that's okay. I'm used to being an underdog. I was an underdog when I ran for office the first time and defeated the longest-serving legislator in a primary. I was the underdog when I was one of 5 candidates that ran for governor. I'm okay being the underdog now. But the issue is, if you look at the fact that we started at 2%, in Iowa we got 20%. Then we went to New Hampshire and we got 43% of the vote. But the night that we got 43% of the vote, President Trump literally became unhinged and went on a temper tantrum. And all he did was talk about revenge. And then the next day, he said anybody who supported me was barred permanently from MAGA. Now, think about that. A candidate for president should want to bring people in. It's about addition. It's not pushing people out of your club. And then the day after that, he pushed the RNC to name him the presumptive nominee. And he got pushed back on that. We don't anoint kings in this country. We let the people vote. But what bothered me about that, and what I wish people would have focused on, is through all of that, Trump never talked about the American people. He never talked about the fact we're $34 trillion in debt. He never talked about the fact that only 31% of 8th graders in our country are proficient in reading. He never talked about an open border that was out of control. He never talked about the lawlessness in our cities. And he never talked about the wars around the world. All he did was talk about himself. So the naysayers can say what the naysayers are going to say. But we are working every ounce of this state because I think we have a country to save. And I don't think this should be about any person. I think it should be about the American people. And we're going to continue to make this about the American people until we get this done.
Governor, a quick question, if I could, about where you sit now, just 8 days away from folks voting. You got 43% of the vote, as you said, in New Hampshire. You did better than a lot of people expected. But you also said of that second place finish, I need to show I'm building momentum. It's certainly, South Carolina has to be better than what I did in New Hampshire. The closest that a poll has got you to Donald Trump right now is you at 38%. Most of the polls have you in the 20s. How do you make up that ground between now and next Saturday?
Well, they said we were 30 points down in New Hampshire, and we gained 25 points in the last 3 weeks of that election. This is the time when people are starting to care. What we have told everybody is general elections, you're given a choice. In a primary, you make your choice. This is about getting every single person out to vote in this primary because this is our opportunity. If you want to talk about a poll, this is the poll I'll talk to you about. 70% of Americans right now say they don't want Biden or Trump in this election. The majority of Americans disapprove of Joe Biden. The majority of Americans disapprove of Donald Trump. Both of those men put us trillions of dollars in debt that our kids are never going to forgive us for. And are we really going to put all of our problems and issues in the hands of 2 80-year-olds running for president? We need someone who can serve 8 years, fully working, fully disciplined, and ready to get the job done. We can't go and take the chance of doing this with 2 80-year-olds. Think about pilots. Pilots have a limit. They go and you have to be 65, and then you stop. Look at the military. They have a limit. How are we going to continue to do this? It's why I've pushed hard for Congress and everyone else to have to do mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75. It's not because I'm being disrespectful. It's because these people are making decisions on the future of our economy. They're making decisions on our national security. We need to know they're at the top of their game. And you look at the world on fire right now, and so many American families out of sorts. We've got to get this right. And so that's what I think. That's the poll that we're talking about. Those are the people I'm fighting for. And at the end of the day, we're going to keep touching every hand, answering every question, and make sure we do everything we can to earn every South Carolinian's vote.
All right, want to go to another